I forgot so many things. Not fun.
Welcome to Florida.
Yes. This is so much fun. The fire alarm is on. You can see his forehead. I don't know if he likes that. Hello, it is 1:53 and it is day one of Megacon, which is very exciting because it is my first time in Orlando. I have never been here before and it is also my first time vending in Florida, so very exciting. I will say I was way too tired to film me setting up. If anything, I'm lucky that I have this amount of footage, but I have a little bit more energy now, which is fine. Here is a quick peek on my table. Very exciting. This is the travel size version. I will show in a quick tour later, but I essentially did not want to bring everything because I am unfortunately soloing this weekend. Usually my helper who is here has a concert this weekend, and then usually Henry is able to come with me, aka Sticker Zoo, but he is at CarrierCon, so gotta woman up and solo this weekend. However, it doesn't feel like I'm soloing too much just because I do have some friends who are vending here as well. I will talk about Megacon a little bit later in this video. However, I will say that I've been trying to get into this convention forever as in 2-3 years now. Ever since I heard about it through Jiyun, aka JYK Doodles, who has been here for several years now. Mostly because I have heard that it is a pretty decent convention. Plus, I also just wanted to go to the theme parks since I've never been to Orlando. So, very exciting. Keep on watching if you want to see more Artist Alley content, more insight about this convention, and how I feel about this con as someone who is from Southern California. And I'll see you later.
Ivy, look at her nails, are so cute.
Nails.
Wow.
They're Luffy nails.
It has all of them. Wow, they're so cute. Yay!
Time to go to work.
No, and we're not even table neighbors.
I know.
So con just started. It is 2:22, and today, I don't know why I thought it started at 1, but today con is from 2 p.m. to 9 p.m., which is quite late in my opinion. I do appreciate that we start late, but 9 p.m. is quite a lot. Let me know what you think about that, especially if we did have to get here a little bit earlier. I believe we got here around 11, and that's because I needed to set up the display a little bit more, but wanted to come on here to show this cute print. Look, it's Silas. I love Silas. And then Caleb. And then they gave me some stickers. It's Zane and Xavier. So thank you so much for stopping by. I'm assuming, I forgot to ask for your username, but I'm assuming it is this one. It's from Immortal Glitch. Thank you so much for stopping by. Hope you have a good Megacon. I know for this convention, I heard that Thursday is a bit slow because a lot of people are either at work or they are going to celebrity signings or comic book artist signings. So I will be honest, I'm mostly expecting to draw most of the time not this weekend, but today. So pretty low expectations for Thursday. I do hear that it does get pretty congested on Saturday, so hopefully that's the case. But for now, I'm just chilling. I am pretty prepared. I did get coffee earlier. I think this is the Brookie Nevada. And then I got a marble cake, which I'll have later, just so I don't starve, especially if I'm pretty much soloing from 2 to 9. That's quite a long time, and I don't want to get stomach aches, so gotta prep for that. I also got these Pringles that were free from Delta since I have a Delta card or an Amex. I'm not sure which one got me that, but we have some food for today at least, so no tummy aches here. I will let you know how the internet is going because I have heard that the internet is not so great in this convention center. Have heard of some rumors about like Wi-Fi / internet blockers, whatever they're called. I know it doesn't work for AT&T, T-Mobile. I think there's another one, but I don't remember that it also doesn't work with. However, I have Verizon, so we'll see how that works. If not, I am mentally prepared to pay for internet, which is not fun, but you gotta do what you gotta do. So I will update on that. Hopefully it is okay, at least for today, because I believe the internet is only purchased from 1 day or 3 days. And of course, this is a 4-day convention. So ideally, I wouldn't have to pay for internet at all. But if I really have to, ideally, I would like today to work. And then the next 3 days, if I do need internet, we'll go with that. So far, it's okay. And I am using my CMO for transactions, but I don't think it's going to last long.
Hello there.
Hello! Oh my god! Hi! How are you? Good to see you
in person.
Yes! It is 3:54, and I have resorted to sketching out a stamp rally design for Anime Expo. I am part of a Love and Deep Space stamp rally, so this one is Chikawa themed, and you essentially had to draw one of the love interests in a Chikawa character. I'm gonna be honest, I don't really know much about Chikawa, though I think it's funny because my laptop case is actually Chikawa, but I just thought the case was cute. I am indifferent to Chikawa, TBH. But currently working on that, I am a little bit hungry, so I might snack on a marble cake that I got from a cafe. But just chilling, nothing too different. I will say there are people walking around, however, they're mostly perusing, though I do understand because usually with conventions of this size, especially if it's very long, most of the time they tend to walk around first, especially if they have an entire weekend pass, so it wouldn't really make sense for most of them to immediately buy something unless there is something that they were looking for. But also with this convention, it is very much a celebrity convention, so there are a lot of big names such as Orlando Bloom, a lot of the Lord of the Rings characters, actors. I'm gonna be honest, I don't really know any of those characters or those actors. John Cena's here. A good amount of voice actors slash singers from K-pop Demon Hunters, so very star-studded with this convention. So if you've seen any of my comic conventions, you do know that because those events attract a lot of people who want to meet these celebrities do charge for autographs and for photo ops, so you can easily rack up hundreds if not thousands of dollars just meeting all of these people, and because those are typically the priority, whatever is left will maybe go to the vendors or artists in Artist Alley. So I'm not expecting too much. However, with the case of how large Megacon is, I believe there's like hundreds of thousands of attendees who attend this event, so kind of evens out. But from my understanding, most of them go to Saturday rather than Thursday or Friday. So I would say today might be a relatively easy day, though it has only been an hour. I don't know, 2 hours. I don't know, I'm very, very disoriented, but gonna take it easy today. My marble cake lunch, mostly because I don't really have time to walk around, nor do I have a helper to get me food as I usually do, but also just trying to save money. So we got some food items from outside, had no trouble bringing them in, so grateful for that. Let's see, I have a marble cake. How do I show this without it falling? Ooh, yay! So my problem right now is that I don't have half of my products, mostly because I did end up shipping most of my merch in a box, whereas everything in my suitcase is literally just display stuff and then maybe the smaller items. We'll have to deal with that later. I do know that it supposedly arrived at the hotel, so hopefully that's true, because there are some instances where it says delivered, but it's not there. I should have everything tomorrow, though I'm not too worried because it's only Thursday, not expecting too much, and I feel that if people are coming today, most likely they'll come back tomorrow. So it is a little bit later in the day. What time is it? It is almost 7 p.m. If you were wondering why I have the camera angled like this, it's because I don't have space, to be honest. And I'm like, I feel a little shy having my camera visible, so you'll be down here for now. I will say it is definitely slow. I did think that this convention would be slow. However, there's a lot of people inside this con, which is super interesting because you would think that with the amount that I'm making for today, you would think that this hall is relatively empty, when that is not true. Again, as I mentioned before, my assumption is that people are still looking around, trying to see what they want to buy, because not only is the economy pretty bad this year, last year, past years, even now, there's still 3 more days of convention, so people are still trying to see what they want, and if they really want it, they'll come back. I will say though, there is a good amount of artists in this artist alley. There's about 700 plus. Kelsey might mention in her vlog how much or how many exactly there are. I did not count, but it does look like 700 or so. I will say though, it is quite funny because there was a good amount of y'all. Thank you for saying hi and stopping by. But there was a good amount of y'all, usually from YouTube. There were a few people from social media that were saying that you were surprised to see that I'm here. I will say I did not advertise as well as I could have that I am here, at least on YouTube. I did post on Instagram I don't remember if I posted on TikTok. I know a lot of y'all were like, oh, I know you're from the West Coast. You usually don't do East Coast conventions. Funnily enough, admittedly, the only reason why I haven't done that many East Coast cons is because I'm usually waitlisted for most of them, so that's why. And it's, at least for myself, it has been a little bit easier just to get into the West Coast conventions because I either have priority or I just got lucky. But I am trying to do more East Coast cons. I'm still trying to do more Midwest, essentially just every part of the United States. But thank you for saying hi. I also did not know that I would be here because I didn't get off the waitlist until about a month ago. So very happy to be here. I will say in terms of numbers, it is very, very low. Again, I don't really share numbers on this channel. However, it is much lower than how much I've ever made in a long time. But I also expected that, given that it is only day 1 out of 4 days, and I am just hoping that the next few days pick up. I will say my expenses are a little bit lower because, one, I am not paying for a helper. I'm not paying for their flights. I'm not paying for their share of the hotel. I'm also not paying for their food or just general pay for working, right? Because I'm soloing this weekend. So I'm curious to see if we'll be able to hit my expenses a little bit sooner. It has been nice so far because I do feel like this convention is a little bit like FriendCon because I have seen a good amount of friends from both West and East Coast and also Midwest, so very fun. We'll see how the rest of the day goes. It is currently 8:04 and I have a raging headache. I think this is mostly because I've been over caffeinated. I did have coffee and then I did have cherry Coca-Cola, one of my favorites. Thank you In-N-Out for having cherry Coca-Cola. I did not get this from In-N-Out, I got it from Wawa. But the ratio of food and caffeine is not the best, so I have a pretty bad headache. Plus, on top of that, a lack of sleep, so having a great time right now. So I apologize if I am a little on the lower levels of hyped. My head hurts, but the show must go on.
Can I get a unified rupee?
Okay.
Okaroon?
Okaroon.
Do you want me to tell you the code?
Yeah, that would be great, please.
4W.
4W.
Did you get the rupee one, the unified rupee?
Yes. And then for Okaroon, is that the 4W?
Yeah.
Okay.
So 4W, 1U.
1U, okay.
And 1J.
1J, okay.
Sorry.
All right, let me grab those for you.
Could I also get 1X?
Yes, and 1X. And just to double check, so you want these 3 for 40.
Yes.
And then this pin set? Perfect. Will that be cash or card?
Card.
Card. Okay, go ahead and confirm if everything's correct, and then you can tap or insert to pay. And you're all set. Thank you so much. Have a good one. Thank you. I will say, even though revenue is very much on the low side, I will say that the interactions have been really great. It's really nice seeing a lot of people who have been watching the videos or following on social media, especially since I've never ventured here and I'm also very rarely on the East Coast. Very good so far. I will say, even though revenue has been on the lower end, at least for what I am projected to make in one day, given the expectations that Thursday is typically a lot slower for Megacon and it's my first time here, I'm still pretty satisfied. I will say interactions have been really nice. Also, I forgot to share. I don't want to say your name just in case you're not comfortable, but thank you for the cute bracelet. It's so cute and it fits perfectly, so I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I love that it is in the brand colors and it has my name, so thank you for stopping by. Thank you for watching the videos and for supporting. It has been very, very fulfilling coming by here, even if it is only the first day, because I'm very seldom am in the East Coast and or Florida. So it is really cool seeing how there are people from Florida / East Coast who do watch the videos or appreciate the content that I've been posting on socials or YouTube. I'm just like not feeling that great because my head kind of hurts, mostly because I haven't been eating as much. I've been mostly eating snacks, and I did have a marble cake, but it's definitely not enough for a whole con day, so I do need to do better about that. I know we are going to get some food for the weekend. I didn't really get a chance to do that yesterday because we were running low on time, and if given the choice between dinner and getting snacks, obviously we were going to prioritize dinner. Make sure you care for yourselves, y'all, because it's not fun not feeling well, especially during con work time. Also, I think it's kind of funny that a lot of people came by, especially Artist Alley friends who came by saying that they watched the Amki vlog and were like, you definitely were not having a great time. And low-key, I will say, in the perspective of the vlog, I definitely was not having a great time just because of outside circumstances. But as someone who obviously experienced the whole thing, of course, there are some things that I did not include in the vlog. Looking at it in hindsight, as someone who is not in that place anymore, not experiencing those things, it was fine. It was not a bad weekend. But during that situation, during back-to-back things happening, I'm like, I'm tired. Get me out. But in hindsight, now that I am looking back on it, it was not that bad. But I thought it was funny. Thank you for checking in. It's hilarious. Hello, it is day 2 of Megacon, and we're here pretty early. I don't know where my phone is, so I can't show you the time, but I will say there's about an hour and a half, 2 hours until con starts. Still pretty early. Today is from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Luckily, the hours are also on the badge here, which I do appreciate. Very helpful when conventions have the con schedule in the back. I will say, looking back on yesterday's numbers, very much on the low side. I don't think I have made that low of a number since a while back. Again, I was warned that Thursday is pretty slow. I will say, depending on where you are in the hall, some people did get better luck, and some have said that this is one of their best Thursdays. So really depends. I do think that since my things are mostly kawaii, anime, rather than the typical Western or more popular art like Pokemon or Marvel, DC, I was expecting to not make as much as artists who might have that type of fan art, just because, again, this is what my booth looks like. And Megacon is a more general type of audience. I think a lot of people forget that it's a Comic-Con type of event because there's so many artist alley friends who vend here, and most of them do sell anime. Remember, Megacon is a very general interest Comic-Con type of show, not anime, even though there is some anime sprinkled in there, but that's basically with any comic convention. I will say, just in reference as to where my location is, so this is a booth. They did add some signage up there, and then we are here where you can see the food over there. I don't know, I think I'm pointing at it, and then the Papa John's sign. And then we are on this side where the pillar 25 is. Honestly, it's pretty hard to find where anyone is, really, just because there aren't table numbers. We weren't given signage for table numbers. However, even though we do have the aisle numbers, which apparently is new, they never had that at past Megacons, it's still very hard to find people. It's very easy to get lost. I don't even know where anyone is, really. It's more of if I walk and then I find them, that's how I find them. But other than that, like, I don't know where anyone is at this point. And I would not be surprised if a lot of people also are confused as to where anyone is. I will say, even for today, I still have relatively low expectations, just because I did hear that Saturday is usually where most people come in. However, there were a few people yesterday who said that they were only coming in on Thursday, so not surprised. So that is good to know that they also have individual ticket sales. If you didn't already, I do have a Patreon. I post behind the scenes content on upcoming products, sketches of new work, sneak peeks into future products, and so much more. And if you're on my Biz Buddies tier, I do post more thorough reviews of my past conventions that I don't typically post on YouTube or social media. So if you are interested in supporting me and this channel, consider supporting me on Patreon. I'll have it linked down below. So it is 11:18 and about an hour 20 minutes since con started, though technically it did start at 9:30 because that's when it opens for VIP, and then it opens officially at 10 a.m. I will say I have heard that there was a pretty long line coming in. I also know that today is the Megacon exclusive opening. What is it? Like when they close a theme park just for a certain group of people. So in this case, Megacon reserved Universal Studios Orlando just for Megacon attendees, and essentially you do have to pay a separate ticket in order to gain access, and I believe it's from 7 p.m. to midnight, 2 a.m. Not sure. I'm not going to that one just because I knew I'm going to be tired later. The last thing I want to do is go to a theme park, especially if it's not given access to Epic Universe, which is the main park I wanted to go for this particular business trip. So I just thought I'll just go on my own time. However, the reason why I bring that up is because Megacon does do that, where they reserve a portion of the park I believe it's usually just with Universal. I don't think they do that with Disney. But you essentially had to line up in order to redeem that ticket, and that was a pretty long line. When I saw photos of it, it's pretty long. I can assume that it's going to take a while, so if you're soloing, good luck with that. Since con started, it is pretty good. I will say it is slightly better than yesterday, though not drastically much. If anything, for me yesterday, it did take me a few hours until I did get my first sale. However, in this case, since a good amount of the people who did stop by were artists, thank you for stopping by. I really appreciate you and hope the con is treating you well this weekend. So a few of them did come by to say hi, did warn me that Saturday is pretty crazy for Megacon. So we'll see how that is on my end, because everything that I know about Megacon is either through other Artist Alley friends or through their vlogs. So very curious to see that through my own eyes. I will say my problem is that I forgot so many things. Not fun. I only brought one headband. I don't remember if I talked about this yesterday, because I feel like everything I talk about on this vlog is also things I was talking about with other friends. So there's just an overlap of information, and I don't know if I relate it on camera, but I forget that Orlando is very theme park heavy. And because it is very theme park heavy, they like their accessories. So they like their headbands, whether that's the headbands that you can get from Universal or the headbands you can get from Disney. And personally, I did these headbands as a labor of love. They don't really do well, to be honest. They don't really do that well. They either only sell once at conventions, if I even have them with me, or they don't sell at all, right? I will say I also just don't advertise them that well, but other than that, they're not that popular. However, this is the first convention where I've had multiple people ask for it. I will say I only sold one because I only brought one, because someone had asked on Instagram if I were bringing them, so I brought it. Otherwise, I would not have brought it. And I should have brought more, but I didn't. So that's on me. I'll bring more next year. Sorry for not bringing more, that's on me. Another thing I didn't bring are my lanyards, which I should have brought my lanyards, given that this convention does have badges for both attendees and vendors. But I was genuinely just running out of space as well as weight allowance. If you know, for most standard airlines, in the case of Delta, if you don't have status with them, you are limited to 50 pounds per check bag, which can add up pretty quickly, especially if you have heavy items like enamel pins, Ita bags. And so honestly, like, both of my suitcases were just display items, maybe a few pins in there, and the rest of my stock was just in a box that I shipped. Luckily, that did arrive safely, so I have it with me now. I essentially did not have any of that merch yesterday, so I couldn't sell shaker keychains, I couldn't sell Ita bags, I couldn't sell sweaters. However, I was kind of expecting that, given that Thursday isn't that busy, and so I was pretty okay with just receiving it Friday onwards, which is fine. So now I have them. One less thing to worry about. I also just don't have my car magnets. I didn't forget them. I purposely did not bring them because my suitcases were going to be too heavy. And this is also something that I do want to bring up, is airline status. I'm not sure if that's something that you are interested in, something you want to hear about. I'll probably talk about that later in this video, but after talking to a few other artists who are flying to conventions all the time, it is something that's important to them and is something that I've been learning more about, because I have been flying out of state for conventions more frequently than I've had to do so in the past. So if you're interested in a more thorough video about airline status, credit cards, especially like business cards, business credit cards, airline credit cards, let me know down below in the comments. We're gonna try face tracking, because I forget that that's a setting on the DJI and I never use it, obviously. But I wanted to show this super cute fan art of me. Oh, it's getting confused. This is why I don't use it. Thank you so much, Camille, for this drawing. I really appreciate it. Very excited to put this into the office. I think it's funny because Mochi's back there. I will say I do have him as a plush headband. I think what vlog was it? It was a vlog from last May or so. It was one where I helped Henry of Sticker Zoo at the UC Davis campus, and I wore all 4 of them for my headband. However, I don't sell the Mochi one, so I know a lot of people will ask about Mochi if I have him on my headband, but I don't sell him. So that's why I ended up taking it off. But very cute. Thank you so much. And thank you for the snacks. Fellow Filipino, thank you. Thank you. So it is 3:42, and I don't remember the last time I filmed. I think it was several hours ago. Low-key thought we were not doing so well until I looked at my numbers, and I'm like, oh, it's okay. It's a little bit better than I thought, especially given the warning on how this con functions for the first couple days. prior to Saturday. So very satisfied. I will say, I think we did just cover expenses or barely cover expenses, which is always the goal. Maybe not barely cover expenses, but at least the early goal is to cover expenses. I will say for myself, because I am soloing and I'm not covering someone else, not covering their share for any of the food, flights, and so on, it is a lot easier to cover expenses by that point. I will say we did sell out of a few things, but that is mostly because I just could not bring that much to begin with. Whether that was the Ida backpacks, I could only bring 2. The headband, which I mentioned before, it was my mistake to not bring as much, but we did end up selling the display, so hack for attendees or artists who are buying in the artist alley. If something that you see is sold out, you could ask if the artist is willing to sell you the display. Sometimes they might because they only have one display item and would rather that as a display rather than replenishing it every event. But most of the time they'll sell it to you because it's one less thing for them to carry back home, essentially. So always consider. Sometimes they might give you a discount, but you never know. Also, it was the right choice to cosplay as the MC in their hunter cosplay because I was visited by other hunters. It was very sweet. Thank you for the goodie bag. I was told by Kelsey that once you start having more lads merch, people know that you play lads. They do give a lot of goodies, so very fun. Thank you so much for stopping by. Y'all were super cute. I love that you guys essentially had your favorite as a little plushie and you had it on your pants loop. I thought that was cute and I might take that idea. So thank you for stopping by. Hope you had a good con. Honestly, I am a little bit hungry, but I will deal with it. I have been snacking a little bit on snacks that I typically don't even eat on a regular basis, but I usually give myself a pass when it comes to conventions. But, you know, gotta get back on the healthy habits when I get home. But since I'm not home, I will do whatever it is that satisfies my sweet tooth or snack tooth. See y'all in a little bit. It is 6:42, so much later than the last time I filmed. Now that it is less than 20 minutes until con ends, I will say that I'm pretty satisfied with today's numbers, given that I am comparing it to my typical minimum for one day, not considering expenses and such. So for today, pretty satisfactory. However, if I were to add today and yesterday's numbers, again, as I've mentioned in this vlog, yesterday was pretty low for what I would see at a typical convention, at least for myself. Oh, it's okay. Hi.
I'm gonna be taking this card.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh no, you're good. You're good.
I saw the microphone. I was like, oh, she's in it. Hold
Oh
on.
no, it's okay. There's still plenty of time. Perfect. Go ahead and confirm if everything's correct.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
I made money today, so I was like, yes, I
Oh,
can go get it.
You're all set. Thank you so much for stopping by again.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you as well. So it is 6:45, so 15 minutes till con ends. I would say after seeing the entirety of today and now that we have a more final result on how much we made this today, I'm pretty satisfied with today's numbers. I will say we did hit the minimum of what I typically would like to make at a convention. So if we're not considering yesterday, today was pretty satisfactory. So just adding today and yesterday's numbers, I will say that we did cover the major expenses. I'm also not including food, Ubers right now because I haven't calculated that. However, if we're going to add up the plane ride, table fee, hotel, we've got those covered. So very satisfied with that. Again, as I mentioned before, it is a little bit different because I am soloing, so my expenses are much lower compared to when I do have someone with me because I am covering for all of their expenses. The threshold is much lower. I will say though, if tomorrow and Sunday are pretty the same, if not a little bit better than today, I would be pretty satisfied. We did get the rebook email yesterday, and you essentially have until Sunday to rebook for the following year, which is May 20th to 23rd. So now it's in May rather than March. I will say I apologize if I am a little bit more quiet than usual just because I feel like I'm pretty tired. Even though the last con that I did, Amkey, was a few weeks ago, I still had a lot of things to do in between, whether that was working on taxes, new designs on upcoming merch, and just a whole slew of other things. So I'm pretty tired, especially soloing this and not having someone be there with me to help me mentally and just help with certain logistics, and all the responsibility being placed on me is just pretty exhausting. So trying not to overexert myself and try to take it a little bit easy. So thank you for being patient, and I'll see y'all in the next clip. I don't know if I'm going to show dinner, or maybe I'll see you tomorrow, but see y'all in a bit. I have no idea where they went. Oh, I found June's too. Oh, she's so close to me. She's just right there. I think they're filming something. Hello. It's June. And helper Kelsey. This is her booth.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. Dessert time. Buffet dessert. It's okay. Well, sharing desserts. Where is mine? Key lime. Delicious.
On the backside.
Beautiful. The one thing I notice about this con is that it's so easy to get lost. I will say I do appreciate that they added table numbers on the aisles, but there are no table numbers on the actual tables, so you kind of have to guess. You're just gonna have to guess with that.
Or if you
We're
lift
walking
the table
Kelsey.
skirt real quick,
Yeah.
it's written on the floor.
That's true. Don't do that though. So we're walking over. We're just trying to find a mutual that we've. At least I have. Oh yeah, you haven't met either. So we're both meeting them for the first time. Yeah. Yeah. So it's here. It's so much brighter on this side.
Oh
See?
yeah, it
Look
is.
how bright it is. This is where we are.
Look, because of this bridge.
Hi. Yeah. I was like, we've never had a con that overlaps.
We haven't come
so I
to
was
Florida,
like,
that's why. Welcome to Florida.
yes. I remember watching your Megacon vlog. I'm like, I don't know what to expect. So I'll
I was
watch
studying
this.
your Megacon vlogs for
Yeah.
this.
Valid. Are you guys liking it so far?
Yeah, luckily I was prepared that Thursday's like very slow. Yesterday was decent, so I'm like, okay.
That's good.
Yeah. Iconic. Very cool. Wow.
Do you not have any?
We're getting our food. It's Ivy. Oh no, we're both wearing white. No.
The same booth. The only difference is you're in blue.
I've never been this deep into the art style.
I've never been in the deep end before.
Oh, she's literally at the edge. I guess that's like what she said. Hello, it is 9:57 and con started technically around 9:30 where VIP opened. However, because there's only a small amount of VIP and the people who are in the VIP section tend to go for the celebrities / comic book artists, so if anything, it's more time for us to just dilly-dally. Now that I was able to sleep on it and assess how yesterday went, I am pretty satisfied with yesterday's numbers. I will say that it was definitely a little bit more than what I'm satisfied with, so always a good sign in that case. I will say that everyone that I've spoken to who has done Megacon before has always said that Saturday is typically very packed. I will say though, even though it is very packed, that doesn't necessarily mean that could translate into larger revenue. I would hope that it does, but a convention can always be busy, but not necessarily have big numbers of revenue. I will say that because it will get packed, I am a little bit skeptical about having self-serve stickers. Now I'm rethinking it, but at the same time, it is what it is. If anything, I did want self-serve stickers because if I am soloing, I don't want to do more work than necessary. I mean, I don't really put my entire sticker stock out there anyway. So if people do steal, it's not really my entire stock and I'm not worried about that. We're prepared for today. I brought my vanilla Coca-Cola. I have my coffee from the hotel. I have my Wawa chocolate chip cookie and my Doritos somewhere and some jerky, and we're all good to go. I will say I'm pretty tired, though I do appreciate when y'all have come by and said that it is okay if I rest a little bit more, or me editing all my vlogs has not come to naught. Is that the phrase? I don't know. That I'm not just working myself silly for no reason. So thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate the kind words because it does help a lot when y'all say that in person, because sometimes I don't know if I'm just working too hard for nothing. So I do appreciate that. I have to say, I'm cold. I don't know why I brought short sleeves, but I thought it was going to be hot in Florida. I was wrong. I should have brought a thicker jacket that worked with my outfit, but it is what it is. I will say it is because the AC is on. Yeah, I'm not under a vent, but it's still cold. I don't know about the other side because where we are, it is towards the food area and towards the other stage because I can hear people talking. It's just cold. Bring a jacket. Wear long sleeves if you can, but it's probably hot outside. I think it stopped. Okay. Someone pulled a fire alarm, and there was like a small siren and the lights were flickering a little bit. I think they assessed it now. The alarm went on again. No one's saying anything, so I don't know. Can you see? It's flashing. It's literally flashing right now. What is going on? And like, there's no announcement. I don't know what's going on, but apparently we don't know if people are being evacuated. This is so much fun. The fire alarm is on. If you didn't already, I do stream on Twitch. I stream once a week to once every other week, where I work on upcoming stamp rally designs, products, con prep, hanging out with Artist Alley friends, and so much more. If you're interested in catching the next stream, if you don't want to miss the next one, consider following me on Twitch, and I will have it linked down below. It is currently 4:54, so about 2 hours until con ends, because con is also 10 to 7 today, the same as yesterday. I will say that seeing today's numbers, though, I know a good amount of people who have done Megacon before have said that in previous years it's pretty crazy. I would say it seems like a pretty standard Saturday. Nothing too crazy, not too bad. I will say that I have hit my minimum of what I'd like to make in a one-day con, not considering expenses, similar to yesterday. Though we still have a few hours left, I would not be surprised if I make just a little bit more than yesterday. I would say that the one thing going not so well for me is just the fact that I sold out of a lot of items. And I've said this before in other conventions, in that it is actually not good to sell out of some products, if anything, like most of your products, especially if they're bestsellers, because you're essentially losing out on the opportunity to sell more. And there were a few people who have expressed interest in Ita bags, headbands, lanyards, some of the corduroy bags. I know we also sold out of the bunny corduroy bags, so kind of sucks that we sold out, but I can't really do much about it. I was considering my own limitations. As someone who is soloing, I didn't want to overship product, and I do think that I basically packed the appropriate amount given the information that I knew, which was not much, because it's more so secondhand information rather than me knowing it from my own experience. So next year I would be a bit more prepared in that end, but I did the best with what I could at the time. It is 5:15 and the hair has gone up into a ponytail because I am dissociating now. I will say an update on the internet situation, because I know I was warned by a good amount of artists that the internet is a little iffy at this convention. I will say I was using Verizon the whole time. I think yesterday, how many days have I been here? For the first 2 days I used my Solis, but because I forgot mine at the convention center, I did end up having to use my Verizon or my phone as a hotspot, just because this essentially died on me. I will say I have not had an issue with using Verizon. I connected my phone to my iPad as well as my Square terminal, and I had no issue. The only issue is that it disconnects sometimes, which is fine. Takes an extra couple seconds to reconnect it, but really not that big of a deal. I'd rather that happen than my internet dying on me and I would have to deny card orders, but no issue here. I know for some artists, they have had some issues with their internet, though I don't know if they were using the Solis or if they were using their phone as a hotspot and had a different provider. I will say I have heard that if you use T-Mobile, AT&T, what are the other ones? I'm not entirely sure, but if you have one of those two providers, most likely it may not work if you vend at Megacon, though it also depends on which hall you're in, because I don't really know which hall we're in. We're in one part of the Orange County Convention Center. It's huge. And apparently every year it does change, and I haven't had any issues with the internet. However, I will say I'm pretty sure Kelsey might mention this in her vlog, and I learned this from her, aka Kelsey Kishi Draws. She heard from another artist who has done Megacon for years now, is that if you are somehow placed in terms of table placement near the guests, like the comic book guests, or near the food, most likely your internet will still work. In our case, I believe that we are still in the vicinity of the comic book guests as well as the food vendors, so we haven't had issues with internet. However, I have heard some people around me do have issues with the internet, so it really just depends. Though I will say you should be mentally prepared and have this in your budget that you will probably pay for internet. I don't remember how much it is for 3 days, if there is a deal, versus purchasing 1 day, because there's only a 1 day option or there's a 3 day option. For 1 day, it is $80, which if you have to do it, you have to do it. It's not fun, but it is still a cost that I would prefer not to do. I don't know what it is for 3 days, but there were a few people who wanted to try it if it didn't work out for them. rather than just spot the spot the 3 days. I believe for last year, whatever hall that was, it was on the other side of the convention center, which is closer to the Hilton, whereas this one is closer, not the Hyatt. Low-key, I don't know. This convention center is huge. It's much bigger than LA Convention Center, so I'm not used to this one. It's a very big con, but keep that in mind. Dinner time.
Sorry.
Dinner time. No, yay. Hello, it is day 4 of Megacon and it is 8:58, so we still have an hour until con starts. I will say, looking back at yesterday's numbers, it was about the same as day 2. So Friday and Saturday were pretty much identical for the most part, maybe different by a few hundred, which is interesting because after talking with some other artists who have done Megacon in the past and have relatively similar art as me, or we all go to anime conventions, they've mentioned that Saturday typically is much more drastic in terms of revenue rather than Friday, so to them it was a surprise that they were about the same. But I will say with other friends, they've said that yesterday was double for them rather than Friday, so it really just depends on, one, where you're placed in your table, and also two, your art style, because it's pretty general in terms of the audience here at MegaCon. As I mentioned before, it is a comic convention. You could pretty much appeal to most people since this con is just so big. I don't really know the attendance of this weekend per se, but from what I've heard in the past weekends, usually there's in the hundreds of thousands of attendees. I can see that in terms of the people flowing through. The only difference is that due to the economy, a lot of people are getting laid off. People don't have as much discretionary income as before. They're just not spending as much, which we've seen that pattern in the past with all of the events since 2024 and so on. So that is to be expected with the conventions moving forward. Do we know how long it's going to last? No, but it is something to consider, especially with a lot of other conventions. I will say that, especially when comparing to other conventions and chatting with other friends, because some of these friends I haven't seen since late last year, so it's been a while since chatting with them IRL. A lot of them did say that some of the events that they did recently within the past few months were also not that good, especially conventions that are typically guaranteed. Obviously, most cons are not guaranteed, but cons that are guaranteed to make big money, they're not doing as well as they used to, so that is an expectation moving forward. Some information about Megacon Orlando. This is a 4-day convention held at the Orange County Convention Center in Orlando, Florida. I would say that the con hours are relatively long. So Thursday is from 2 to 9 p.m. Friday and Saturday are from 9:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. Though technically it starts at 10 a.m. 9:30 is just for VIPs. And then Sunday is from 9:30 to 5 p.m. We do end a little bit earlier today, which accommodates for takedown. So at least I appreciate that, because one of my biggest gripes is when cons end at the same time as Saturday, and especially if it's later, so then I can't really accommodate for dinner plans, especially when most places close earlier on Sunday. Is that me just being picky? Perhaps. I'm not saying that events that have the same hours Saturday and Sunday are not my favorite. I'm just saying that if they end really late, especially on Sunday, that's usually when I have somewhat of an issue with, but at the same time, I don't really have much room to complain here, but it is something to consider, especially if you're an event organizer. Please consider ending slightly earlier on a Sunday, just so it gives us time to take down, but also grab dinner, especially for some places that don't have a late closing time. For an artist alley table, I did pay $549. And I believe it is going up by $25 or so this coming year. One of the biggest appeals of MegaCon, as well as the other fan expo shows. So if you didn't know already, MegaCon is one of many fan expo shows, not to be confused with Fan X. Those are two different companies apparently. And usually they're more comic convention-like, but there are a good amount of anime artists who vend at either one of them. But in this case, we're talking about Fan Expo and specifically Megacon Orlando. One of the biggest appeals with this Artist Alley is that it is rebook. If you know, with Artist Alley applications and vending in Artist Alley, most of the time you apply, you either get in, you don't get in, and then you apply again for the following year. And you still don't know if you got in or not, even if you did get in the previous year. However, in this case, once you get in, if you are able to show up the next year, you are able to rebook. And of course, they could change that. Maybe next year, they might stop doing rebooks, but for the most part, it essentially secures your place for the next several years. It's very appealing because it's one other event you can at least count on in the following year. I will say it was a bit difficult trying to get into this convention. As I mentioned, definitely follow the Facebook group. I wouldn't say that it's not possible to get into this convention otherwise, but it helped me tremendously because otherwise I would not have known and I would have just kept applying, getting waitlisted if not rejected, and then applying every year, and nothing different would happen. How I got in was because I was being annoying on Facebook and just messaging event staff until they responded. I got off the waitlist in February, so sometime around early February, late January, Rich, the head staff organizer of the vendor and artist alley for Megacon, essentially posted saying, oh, we have open artist alley tables. Who wants one? And essentially you have to put your business name as well as a photo of your booth in that comment section and just hope that he responds to you. If anything, you kind of have to keep notifications on, which is not my most favorite thing because I don't really go on Facebook. The only reason why I go on it is just for Megacon, honestly, or even Stack Anime. But even then, it's like, I don't really like it. Oh, maybe here in front of the trash can. I'm like, this. You want to jump? Okay. I think it's good.
Megacon, Orlando. We're going to Epic.
We're going to Epic Universe. That's like a
be really
thumbnail.
cute.
The thumbnail. Oh, hello.
Hi.
It's so funny.
Where did you go?
I didn't see you there. I'm sorry.
Yeah, this is a red carpet where they used to have Artist Alley, but we're gone. Right, yeah.
I remember in Jion's vlog seeing
Yeah, I was like, June, where's the red carpet? She's like, it's in exhibitors. I'm like, no.
Macy, when we got here, she's like, I'm shy. There's so many people looking at us.
Yeah, Chris isn't here. Boo.
Stop by my booth and he hasn't. You freaking liar. Chris, if you're watching this, I'm pissed at you. You're gonna flip your table.
No. With love. Flip it with love. No. It is now 10:40, so 40 minutes since Con publicly opened to the public. I will say there was a good amount of beginning sales, which I'm a little bit surprised by because I tend to have very few sales the morning of Sunday because that's usually the time when most people are sleeping in, they went to church or are going to church or are at church, and they usually don't come in until later in the afternoon. Pretty healthy amount of sales. I will say I think it's because a few of them were other artist vendors, so thank you for stopping by. So nice meeting y'all. I got this pin from CN, which is super cute. Thank you so much. I love Sanji. We are pro Sanji here, at least when he's acting right. Was also able to sell the pink Eat a Bag display, which I usually don't offer because I do have holes on the inserts, and of course, like the whole appeal is that it's blank, right? Even if it is discounted. However, they said that they didn't mind buying it even if it did have holes. So I just gave it to them at a discount, of course. I am decently confident that my suitcases will be under 50 pounds. I'm a little bit worried about my keychains because the keychain box is about 7 pounds. So that's pretty hefty out of 50. And given that the suitcases could be several pounds as well, so it'll add up pretty quickly. I have to share that this is probably one of the coolest things I've ever seen. Look at this. Can you see that? Obviously, this looks familiar if you do like One Piece. It's basically a map of the One Piece world, and it looks so freaking cool. Look at that. This is from Oakleaf Arrow Studios. Oakleaf Arrow, are you focusing, DJ? I think you are. The lovely Cassandra came by and gave me one. Oh my goodness, thank you so much. This is so freaking cool. So lovely meeting you. Hope to see you in the Artist Alley. I will say though, looking at this convention, someone who's doing it for the first time has a little bit more expenses than usual because I am flying essentially across the country. If you're not familiar, this is how far Los Angeles is from Orlando. I will say that, obviously, I did say that I rebooked for this convention. I would do it again, see how different it would be with more product, because at this point I can actually plan to bring someone with me, and I feel that I am limiting myself because I don't have as much product as I could have, especially since I sold out early in the weekend. However, looking into this question for other artists, is it worth for them trying for Megacon? It's tricky because, as I've said in other videos, I feel that it really just depends on what you sell. What does your display look like? What variety of products you have? I have seen a good amount of different shops artists within this space. I saw a few people who sold Disney ears, which I can see being popular given that the theme parks are right next door. I've seen the typical comic artists, lots of anime artists that you typically would see in the artist alley. I will say that Megacon Orlando is one of the larger conventions in the Florida area. I don't know if it's the largest, like ever. I'm not really aware of that information. I wouldn't say it's the same because I've never done Holiday Matsuri, aka Holmat. So I'm not gonna say that it's exactly the same, though I believe they're in the same convention center. But if I were to do Holmat, I would definitely do better there rather than here because it is more anime themed, whereas this one, again, is more general, more comic book like. I would say that it's worth it if you can shell out the $500 or so plus whatever additional fees you might have to pay to vend here. If you're local to the area, I would say yes. If you're a more seasoned artist alley vendor who is looking for a convention that does allow for rebook within Artist Alley, this is a convention that you might want to consider. As of now, I don't think that this convention is at the quote-unquote peak that what it used to be for artists similar to myself who had expected certain numbers. They're not hitting those numbers this year. Will we hit those numbers next year? We're not sure too, because if you think about it, MomoCon is usually in mid-May, right? I don't know if it's going to be the same weekend as MegaCon. I don't think it would be just based off of the May calendar. Like if you look at this calendar, usually Anime Central in Illinois happens, then MomoCon/Fanime. MomoCon is a little bit closer and it is on the East Coast as well. And then in this case would be MegaCon and then, maybe Anime Riverside, who knows? So I don't think they're going to overlap, but there could be the off chance that one of these conventions happens to choose a different weekend than usual, and that might happen. But, I already booked for this con, so I'm basically blocking off that weekend for next year. So that is the only 2027 convention that I have booked so far. I don't really want to think that far ahead when it's only March of 2026, but at least it's reassuring to know that in this very unstable Artist Alley environment, I have another convention booked. Does it suck that my $500 something is now in reserve and in the air in terms of money? Sure. But unfortunately, that is the case with the Informa shows.
We're at Epic Universe. Oh, it's so bright. Wow, so exciting. We're here. Oh, it is 1-to-1 with USJ because I think Canopio is usually there, like the Canopio Cafe, and then the 1-Up Factory, and then over there in the tunnel is Donkey Kong. Very cool. So we're currently at the Toadstool Cafe. So what's interesting is that I've noticed that it's a little bit different here, that there is a big emphasis on mobile orders. So I'm about to place my order now. So essentially you get seated first and then you place the order from the QR code on your table and then they'll bring the food to you. Versus USJ, at least last time I went a year ago, you order first. Oh, it's getting darker because Bowser's coming. Essentially, you get your food first, then you get seated. So very interesting difference. I will say I was a little skeptical because I'm like, they don't really have the food that I was really looking for Toadstool Cafe. Because I really like I don't know what the official name is. Let me see. What did I get? I really like the Super Mushroom Pizza Bowl because it is essentially a soup and it comes with a mushroom looking top, but it's bread, and you can essentially dip that bread with the sauce and it tastes like pizza, exactly like pizza. The Superstar Lemon Squash, is that what that's called? I don't remember. I mix the words up all the time, but looks delicious. I believe it has tapioca pearls on the bottom and it's a lemon soda drink with mango star pieces. Not the biggest fan of mango, but it's fine. I do like this drink. The mushroom soup, which he's all lopsided. It looks like he's wearing a beret. You can see his forehead. I don't know if he likes that. Thought this was funny, so I had to share it. Essentially, the pizza bowl has actual meat in it. Like, there's a lot of meat pieces. Like, there's pepperoni and sausage, and then the bread is definitely a lot more solid. Because the one in USJ is mostly soup-based. I generally don't remember if there's meat in it. I think it's mostly like soup, cheese,
and then mushroom pieces, but definitely no meat. We're going to France. We're actually, after Megacon, we made so much money, we went to Europe. That's not true. We went the budget route.
Make so much money, you can go to France.
No, we did not make that much money.
This is where, are you feeling butterbeer crepes?
Oh, yeah.
This is where you get the
Oh,
butterbeer
yeah.
crepes.
Ooh,
And
okay.
butterbeer crepes.
Low-key, I'm like, I need to not forget to take photos, too.
I know, I always look for videos.
So we're in the French part of the wizarding world of Harry Potter, but I don't think it's called that. I don't know. I'm going to be honest, I did not do much research about this park because I was too stressed about thinking about Megacon. Now that I had time to sleep on my experience at Megacon for the past 4 days, I will say it is very long. Maybe it's also because I was soloing, so I was really just in my own thoughts the whole time. But it felt so long that I completely forgot that I was in Orlando for a small period of time, and I just did not know where I was most of the time because it's 4 days long. Plus, if you also account for flying in to Orlando the day before and then being here at the theme park. So we are, again, I'm at Epic Universe right now. But I did want to share a little bit on how I feel about Megacon now that I've had the time to let it simmer. I will say during that time period, sales were on the lower end of what I expected, at least from hearing everyone else's thoughts, their experiences with the con. Usually Megacon is typically viewed as a very good convention. However, just because there has been an expansion on Artist Alley, I think there's around 600 to 700 artists. Don't quote me on that. I didn't count. I just heard from other people who did estimate on count, but there's around that many artists. So it's a good sized Artist Alley, very big. And of course, there is a lot of artists who have been doing this for years, have been at the same convention for years. And of course, being a new face in this convention, you might get more sales because people probably have not bought from you yet. Also, another appeal is that it is in Orlando. I do view this being a business trip, but also an opportunity to also visit the theme parks, whether that's Epcot, the different Universal parks, which I had just found out a month ago that there are different ones. I just thought it was Universal. No, there's 3 of them. And then I think there's 2 different Disney parks. I don't know anything about the theme parks in Orlando. That is something that I would want to do, is visit the parks as well with friends. Actually plan for that because we didn't really get to do that for this trip since we had just found out that I got in a month ago. But now that I know what I know, I can plan better for that and accommodate for that. I will say it is a little bit tricky because looking at the calendar of May 2027, potentially it might be Anime Central, Megacon, and then Fanime and or MomoCon. I don't think I'll get into MomoCon. Honestly, like, they don't really like me. Just kidding. I don't know. They don't like me for some reason. I always get waitlisted, so I don't think my chances of getting into MomoCon are going to be pretty slim. Fanime, I just got lucky this year. They could easily not want me next year, so that is an expectation. ASIN got lucky again this year. Hopefully, I would love to come back, but I don't know. With how Artist Alley is, who knows? So at least I have that event basically confirmed for May. I'm just not looking forward to how hot it's going to be. Everyone was saying like, oh, why aren't you going to Epcot this weekend? I'm like, I only really have the budget and the time for Epic Universe. I want to go home after. And they're like, no, like it's much cooler now. I'm like, I'll suffer next year with the heat. It's okay. I was winging this whole vlog. Usually I have notes, but I don't know. Well, ooh, water. Ooh, our butterbeer.
My overpriced water.
Her overpriced water.
But I can breathe underwater now, so
Yeah.
it's okay.
Guess how much it was? $6. Yes, we got butterbeer. I like the frozen variety. And we also ordered a butterbeer crepe, which we're splitting, so very fun. And with Kelsey
anything and
is
everything.
Kelsey. She looks so good. The lighting looks amazing on you.
And my bangs are so gross.
No, it's the butterbeer crepe. We're over butterbeard. So I wanted to get a second opinion on Megacon as someone who is doing it for the first time and is also from California with high expenses. This is Kelsey of Kelsey Kishi Draws. Basically, after the 4 days and us being at Epic Universe today, what is your experience with Megacon? Was there something that stood out? How is it different from other conventions? Whatever comes to mind.
First off, it was huge, which it was super exciting. I love big conventions. I love walking around and looking. studying, but I wasn't able to walk around and look because I was solo. So I was like torn all weekend. I want to go play, but I gotta work. So I'm a little like bittersweet, I guess, in that sense. Financially, it reminds me a lot of MomoCon, and I remember Ivy saying that in her vlog when I was studying. She said it reminded her financially a lot of MomoCon. And it makes sense because Atlanta's not very far away and they're both 4-day events. Maybe that's how a lot of people can see it. If you do well at MomoCon, you might do well at Megacon. Personally, I wasn't mad at my numbers, but my expenses were really high. Next year, I do plan on cutting back on a lot of things, like not shipping as much, not getting stuck in Kansas for 2 extra days, you know, stuff like that. I think if I can cut my expenses low, then that number would make me a little bit happier that I made. But also, if the economy could heal, I'm sure that would make a big difference. Overall, I liked Megacon. I already rebooked for next year. When it comes to big conventions, just always temper your expectations, kind of a thing.
I feel like a lot of people, when they see big conventions, like let's say even AX, even though AX for me is a very good convention because I have a lot of anime work, some people expect certain numbers, but because their audience does not align with the AX audience, they don't do as well as other people. And if they see, oh, 200,000 attendees, I can make this much money, that might not translate to your revenue because there are so many other factors besides the economy. Celebrity guests who are charging hundreds, if not like $800. Like John Cena was charging like $800 for one of his ticket options, right? So it really depends. I think it's worth it. We've thought it's worth it. Most of our friends who have similar artwork find it worth it. For some people, it might not be worth it. And for some people who have more comic type of art, they do really well at this con. So it's just, like you said, just tempering those expectations is what really helps a lot.
Yeah, I was across from the actual comic book artists who work for like DC and stuff, and they were popping. I mean, that's a whole different industry, right? But like, I would say, yeah, there's lots of different parts of this convention. There's the comic book artists, there's the exhibitors, there's the cosplayers, different avenues for sure. But I mean, if you're a comic book artist, yeah, you'll kill it there.
But I'm satisfied with my numbers this weekend. I know you're satisfied with your numbers, and we had a great time. Cute! We got I don't know what this is. The dragon something, but it's basically mac and cheese esquites. So it looks delicious. It looks so yummy. Look at that. Yay! So now that you know my experience vending at Megacon for the first time here in Orlando, Florida, as someone who is from SoCal, if you're curious about my experience vending in Milwaukee, as I did have to deal with several travel issues, click on this video to see my Amkey vlog from a few weeks ago, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye! 3, 2, 1, pose! 3, 2, 1, pose! 3, 2, 1, pose! Yay!
I think
That's a
that'd
good
be really
thumbnail.
cute.